right, we are live. Hi there. My name is Jeremy Nichols. I'm the Climate Energy Program Director for Wild Earth Guardians, and I have Becca Fisher, Climate Energy Program Attorney for Wild Earth Guardians. We are kicking off our inaugural Climate Energy Program check-in for Wild Earth Guardians. We're here in the Denver office of Wild Earth Guardians. Folks may know Wild Earth Guardians is a West-wide conservation group. We have offices in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Denver, Missoula, Montana, and in the Northwest as well. And the organization itself works on conservation issues, varied conservation issues, wildlife conservation, river protection, protecting public lands, and I and Becca do all the climate and energy program work. And we thought it would be great to kick off a series of Facebook Live check-ins to give folks updates on what we're working on, some of the big issues, to interact with people and answer questions. We call this an Ask Me Anything type format. We wanted to kick it off today by talking about our Colorado for Clean Air campaign. Becca?
Yeah. Let's get started.
Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay, all right, great. Well, we're going to keep this going for half an hour or so. We'll see what level of interaction we get. Hopefully over time we'll start building our audience and get many more folks involved. So what is the Colorado Clean Air Campaign? Becca, that was one of the big questions, obviously, that came up. And we did actually get a few email questions in advance, so we'll try to address those today. But if you have any questions, please interact on Facebook Live. Again, I'm Jeremy Nichols. I'm the Climate Energy Program Director for Wild Earth Guardians, and
Becca Fisher, Climate Energy Program Attorney.
Program Attorney for Wild Earth Guardians. So with that, Colorado for Clean Air campaign. It's a recently launched campaign by Wild Earth Guardians to first and foremost protect Colorado's clean air, but more specifically to rein in oil and gas industry air pollution, which is fueling unhealthy levels of smog in the Denver metro area and also threatening clean air and public health in other parts of the state. Right now, the state regulators are actually moving forward to adopt new rules to clamp down on oil and gas industry air pollution, and we're gearing up to engage to ensure that those rules are as strong as possible. And we're also working to build support in other ways for bold action for clean air. We have two key areas where we're engaging, where we're investing time and energy. One, grassroots organizing. We're starting to reach out to folks to build support for the Colorado for Clean Air campaign and for reining in oil and gas industry air pollution. And we're meeting with people, we're going to community meetings, and also coordinating with other groups that are more engaged on a grassroots level, including 350 Colorado, which is very climate centered, and Colorado Rising, which was the group behind the Proposition 112, which was a ballot initiative that was up for a vote last fall in Colorado that would have imposed setbacks for oil and gas development. And that initiative unfortunately did not pass, but it definitely galvanized a lot of great grassroots excitement and energy around reform of the oil and gas industry. The other thing that we're doing is we're flexing our legal muscles, and it's great that I have Becca here, our Climate Energy Program Attorney. We're actually in court in a couple areas. One, against the EPA, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, for failing to crack down on the state's failure to meet federal health standards for ground level ozone. Ground level ozone is the key ingredient of smog. And the Denver metro area, as many know who live in the Denver metro and the Front Range region, as many know, the area is suffering a smog crisis as we speak. This summer has seen many days with high ozone levels, and we continue to violate federal health standards, which is a huge problem. And part of the problem ties back to the Trump administration and their refusal to follow the law and to push the state to do better. The other big case that we have is we sued 7 oil and gas companies in May for illegally fracking, developing well sites and fracking them and putting them into production before obtaining legally required clean air permits. It's a big case. The defendants include Extraction Oil and Gas, Crestone Peak, Great Western, Noble Energy, and a couple others. And it's really advancing a really important issue, which is that the oil and gas industry is supposed to be meeting very strict clean air standards and obtaining permits that impose some of the strongest limits on air pollution as possible. And our case right now is trying to get a federal judge to rule that they're constructing these facilities and putting them into production is contrary to the Clean Air Act, and that they should be held to what are basically gold standards for protecting the air we breathe and our health. So that's a kind of a companion piece in our Colorado for Clean Air campaign. And if we can succeed in that, it will definitely help move the ball forward further for protecting air quality here in the Denver metro area. I want to get to questions. And again, my name is Jeremy Nichols. I'm the Climate Energy Program Director for Wild Earth Guardians. And
Becca Fisher, Climate Energy Program Attorney for Wild Earth Guardians.
And thank you for joining us again. We're kicking off our inaugural weekly Facebook Live check-ins. We're going to plan on doing these every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And we'll talk about a variety of topics as we get these things up and running. And today we're talking about our Colorado for Clean Air campaign, which, by the way, we have a landing page for it, a website. It's co4cleanair, co4cleanair.org. So go to that page. It will give you updates on our campaign, and it provides an opportunity to sign up to receive updates and alerts from us when there's opportunities to engage and help make a difference for the air that we breathe. So let's get to some of the questions. We got a few emailed to us. Becca, I'll let you can kick it off.
Great. Well, I think the question that's first and foremost in my mind and in our members' minds is, where is Governor Polis on all of this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Governor Polis, he has been very clear that he wants to see the air cleaned up, especially in the Denver metro area, and that our smog situation is completely unacceptable. He's made some very bold statements in the media over the past few months. I'm going to read just one here, which I think really just nails it. He said, we have to do everything in our power right here at home to make our air cleaner and our people healthier as soon as we possibly can. That's a direct quote from the governor in a recent news article. And even officials with his Department of Public Health and Environment have echoed that sentiment. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment director, she has been very upfront. Mm-hmm. She said the state will lead on reversing the consequences of climate change, work to get the Front Range swiftly into ozone compliance. We have these great statements, these great commitments. It's very, very clear the governor supports clean air. What we're now trying to do is translate that support for clean air into support for reining in the oil and gas industry's air pollution. And the governor is leaving, kind of letting his agencies drive this rulemaking process. We're hoping that he is sending the message to his Department of Public Health and Environment that we need to go big or go home. It's time to stop giving the oil and gas industry a break. Our air is suffering. Oil and gas industry contributes more smog-forming pollution to the air that we breathe than any other industrial source here in the Denver metro area and in Colorado. They contribute around 40% of what are called volatile organic compounds. These are a variety of gases that when they react with sunlight, they create this ozone pollution. And those emissions have not declined sufficiently enough. And even though industry says that the standards are the strongest on the books, when you look at whether we're meeting federal ozone standards, they're clearly not strong enough. And even the agency that's going to be driving this rulemaking, the Air Pollution Control Division, the director of the Air Division, has said that current levels of emissions are not acceptable. So we hope that sentiment, the governor's sentiment, the Department of Public Health and Environment sentiment, and the Air Pollution Control Division sentiment translates into the biggest, boldest effort to rein in the fracking industry that we've ever seen. That's what we're working to do. Hopefully the governor will join us and really push for that internally.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I hope so too. Well, one thing I think that's important, a piece to address here, is Senate Bill 181. It obviously put public health and safety first in Colorado. How will that change the landscape?
Yeah, that's a good question. So folks probably know Senate Bill 181 passed this past legislative session, and it was partly in response to kind of this upswelling of concern over the impacts of fracking to public health and the environment. And the bill it enacted sweeping changes in the way the industry is going to be regulated. One of the key things that it did is it directed the Oil and Gas Conservation Commission to change its mission to become focused on protecting public health and the environment first and foremost from oil and gas development. The law also required the Air Pollution Control Division, or the Department of Public Health and Environment, to promulgate a whole new set of rules to clamp down on oil and gas industry air pollution. It's interesting, there's kind of two parallel processes unfolding here. There's the Oil and Gas Commission, which, by the way, there's a hearing today, an Oil and Gas Conservation Commission hearing in Glenwood Springs, where the commission is taking public comment on proposed regulations, updates to their regulations, including changes to ensure public health and the environment come first. They're moving forward to that process. At the same time, the Air Division is moving forward with its process. They actually have a meeting tomorrow, a stakeholder meeting, to talk about proposed regulations or regulations that are going to be proposed for this fall that kind of get the ball rolling on meeting Senate Bill 181.
Yep, and if you'd like to attend, we have a Facebook event, 8:30 at the CDPHE building. So.
Yeah, it's a public stakeholder meeting. Anyone can attend. We'll be there. It'll be a little wonky, just as a forewarning. A little wonky, and lots of industry attorneys are going to be there, but we have to be there. We have to be there, and we have to be grilling the state and ensure that they're not buckling under the pressure of the oil and gas industry. So technically in Colorado, public health and the environment has to come first when it comes to oil and gas. And what we're going to do is ensure that as air regulations are adopted, that principle is paramount, and that the state
should be.
That the state follows that and stops making excuses for letting the oil and gas industry off the hook. Their emissions are having an impact on everybody here in Colorado, and in particular everybody in the Denver metro area. If you live in Jefferson County, Douglas County, you don't have to be living right next to oil and gas wells to be impacted. The emissions are released and they fuel this ozone pollution that is felt across the region. In fact, the monitor with some of the highest ozone readings this summer has been in Golden, Colorado, actually at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory off South Table Mountain. If anybody's familiar with Golden, Colorado, you know that there are no oil and gas wells in the vicinity. It is all blowing in from Weld County, from where the oil and gas production is really booming right now, and that's why it matters. It matters for everybody. So we're going to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to weigh in, to push for better rules, and that the state really takes its duty to protect public health as seriously as possible.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I know that you were out in the field this weekend up in Weld County. Are you seeing any changes on the ground? What's happening?
Yeah. So this is something that Wild Earth Guardians does, and especially the Climate Energy Program. We make sure we're on the ground. We get out and we see areas that are impacted by fossil fuel development, so that we can understand how to make change. I think it's probably not a surprise for people to know that our vision is a fossil fuel-free future. We can't keep drilling, fracking, and mining fossil fuels and have any chance of safeguarding our climate. And here in the American West, we have unique opportunities to help advance climate progress by confronting fossil fuel production, which we've been very, very good at over the years. So we try to get out on the ground, we try to see firsthand, bear witness to the destruction that's unfolding. And so last weekend I went up to Weld County to scope things out, get some video, get some pictures. If you follow our Twitter handle, it's @ClimateWest. We have a lot of pictures, a lot of threads that you can check out, and you can see what we documented there over the weekend. I gotta be totally honest, it's a bit of a nightmare that's unfolding. And where I was in and near the town of Windsor, Colorado. Windsor is kind of a bedroom community to Fort Collins. It's in Weld County, but a lot of folks who live there work in Fort Collins and other places, nearby areas. And the community is in the midst of just getting fracked, and there's new wells being drilled very close to homes. There's wells that have already been drilled and are producing, and rigs are still showing up and doing maintenance, and just an intensive amount of industrial activity that's unfolding there. And what we're seeing is that it's really unchecked. There seems to be no restraint at all being exercised, not only by industry but by regulators as well. And it gets back to this issue that we're in court over, the oil and gas industry fracking without getting legally required air permits. I actually documented several facilities where, yeah, they're operating right now. They're releasing pollution. You can see the pollution, and they have no permit, which means we have no way to hold them accountable to protecting our health. It's really just, it's a trust us approach, and the state has relied on that, just trust in the industry over the years. We're really trying to break that. We're really trying to upend that trust us approach. We can't trust the industry. I mean, this is a dangerous industry. They're dealing in poisons. I mean, there's benzene coming out of the air, coming into the air, which is a known carcinogen, and they're polluting with impunity right now. And I saw that firsthand in Weld County, and I also saw how, especially in western Weld County, new rigs and new wells are really pushing into developed communities. I saw in the town of Meade and the town of Erie, where rigs were right in people's backyards, and new wells are being drilled and fracked as we speak. And a lot of people don't really understand that how risky this fracking is and how much pollution is tied to this industry. I think that's our goal, and that's why we get out on the ground. We're trying to document just why people should care about this and how it's actually impacting where we live here in Colorado.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, and how does what you saw on the ground tie in with our enforcement case that we have against those 7 oil and gas companies? Have they stopped polluting or changed any of their actions since we filed?
Well, they haven't, no. And the state is still allowing companies, the Department of Public Health and the Environment, even though we've exposed this issue, and there's an amazing Denver Post story that came out in April that folks might have seen that really called attention to this issue. It's called what we call the 90-day loophole. And under the rules, the oil and gas industry can delay submitting permit applications for its well facilities, clean air permit applications. No other industry is allowed to submit permit applications after they already build their facilities. So it's a huge giveaway to industry that's been on the books for a while. But industry has really pushed it to an extreme, and they're building these massive well facilities, like multi-well facilities that are huge sources of ozone-forming emissions. And the state is letting them get permits after the fact, after they drill, frack, and put them into production. Sometimes for more than a year, they have no permit and they're operating. And so our enforcement case is trying to hold industry accountable to the notion or the principle that they have to get a permit before fracking. And in the meantime, the industry is not really changing, but the state, we have mixed feelings about the Department of Public Health and Environment. On the one hand, they've failed and they are not holding industry accountable, but they are actually proposing to get rid of the 90-day loophole. And
That's great.
Yeah, they shared proposed rule language yesterday, and they're going to share it more publicly tomorrow that would eliminate the 90-day loophole. So, we have our enforcement case, which will hopefully ensure some accountability for these past actions, but moving forward, it looks like, thankfully, finally, we won't have to contend with this egregious loophole that has allowed industry to frack without permits for years.
That's great news.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. We're applauding the state. We need to get rid of this loophole. The state is moving in that direction. We wish that they would be more diligent about assuring accountability today. Because here's the thing, we have an ozone crisis now, today, and as much as changing the rules will help make things better 2, 3, 5 years from now, we're really pushing hard for some action today to rein in this ozone-forming pollution and holding the governor to his commitment here. He said we have to do everything in our power to make our air cleaner and our people healthier as soon as we possibly can. We really can't delay, and we do need better rules for sure. But what can we do today? And we've actually called on the state to take a time out on new fracking, stop approving new drilling permits, stop approving new air permits, at least in the ozone, what's called the ozone non-attainment area, the region that's violating federal health limits for ground level ozone in the Denver metro area and the North Front Range region. At least exercise some restraint and give us some interim relief. This week, the region still had high ozone, and from Wild Earth Guardian's perspective, we're going, what the heck's going on, Governor? What the heck is going on, Department of Public Health and Environment? Like, why can't we take some near-term steps to protect people, even as we're moving on this path to really ratchet things down on a long-term basis?
That's crazy. Yeah, I saw on the ozone alerts there was one this Sunday. oil and gas industry's got to be the culprit at that point.
Which is crazy. So on Sunday, there was high ozone. In fact, the monitor in Golden, Colorado had one of the highest ozone readings in the Denver metro area. That's not commuters, that's not traffic, that's industrial activity that's going on. And it just really emphasizes that the oil and gas industry's footprint is immense, and it really needs to be curtailed.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah. So,
well, what else? We've got a few more questions if you'd like. So I guess we were kind of addressing that as well. The governor did pass the zero emissions vehicle ozone savings plan.
Yes.
How is that going to contribute, or is it going to help enough?
Yeah, so folks probably saw this last week. The Department of Public Health and Environment did adopt new rules to promote zero emission vehicles. Basically, it's a step forward toward electrification of our transportation system. And without a doubt, it's an important step forward. It's really, we need to be dealing with the demand side of things and incentivizing more demand for electric vehicles and making that shift is absolutely critical. But it is a step, and it was acknowledged by the Department of Public Health and Environment that it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve all our problems. That more needs to be combined. So, and that's really, we often highlight our work to keep fossil fuels in the ground. We call it our keep it in the ground work, and it's basically supply side climate advocacy, like trying to get at the production side of things. But our vision is a multifaceted approach to safeguarding the climate. We need to deal with demand, we need to deal with supply, and given that we're in the midst of a climate crisis right now, and in Colorado, a clean air crisis, we need to be dealing with both ends of the fossil fuel life cycle, basically. We need to deal with production, we need to deal with demand. And the zero emission vehicles moving forward on demand is great. Let's follow it up by some very bold action on the production and the supply side. Let's start to get at those emissions in a very deep way. So we're hoping that with the rules, the oil and gas rules coming up that are going to be proposed this fall, that we'll be able to build on the zero emission vehicle standards, and really, I guess, implement a good 1-2 punch for clean air and the climate here in Colorado.
Yeah, that's great. One other quick point I wanted to make that Guardians has been pushing for is offsets. So it's kind of a wonky term, but the idea is that there's a net reduction in pollution, and that's something that I think is really key here, is we can't continue to have more and more oil and gas wells with better controls, but overall the air quality seems to be still getting worse. So I think offsets and a net reduction in pollution overall is vital to ensuring that we have clean air for the future, and generally we have a livable Colorado. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's the situation that we're in now. The state over the years has adopted rules to require better pollution controls at oil and gas well facilities. And in many respects, a lot of these facilities are using state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line pollution controls. But there has been such a surge in fracking and development that those controls aren't making the difference anymore. They're not leading to net emission reductions. And so that's really the key here. We need to start reducing overall pollution from the oil and gas industry. And offsets, basically, like if industry wants to frack new wells, they have to offset emissions to achieve net reductions in emissions. And we've actually pushed for a very bold and aggressive offset program. And that's our expectation. We're expecting the state to do something akin to an offset program to ensure and guarantee the people of Colorado that there will be net reductions in emissions. And that's going to be a key metric for us, as you said, Becca.
Sure.
We can't just require better controls. That's just nipping at the edges. That's not dealing with the problem. That's like making cigarettes, cleaner, better filters on cigarettes. It still doesn't change the fact that they're still polluting, they're still fouling our air, they're still poisoning the atmosphere. We need to ratchet down on the development, and in the long run, and we hope the governor at some point acknowledges this. We need to start moving away from oil and gas production. We need to start ratcheting down the level of production and putting systems and rules in place to incentivize a wind down of our reliance on oil and gas. And an offset program to address our clean air challenges is a great step toward making that happen.
Yeah.
The other thing is it's good for industry because it gives them flexibility to decide how to reduce emissions. And
That's great.
We were just talking about this yesterday, that there's a lot of actually gas wells that are old. They're not newer wells, they're older wells that are what's called shut in right now. They're not producing oil and gas, but they still exist. And I think enough to see if it gains any traction.
Great. One other quick question, which I think it might be good to cover, is you mentioned our lawsuit against the Environmental Protection Agency. How, there's a lot of action going on at the state level. How does the federal level interplay with that?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. The EPA plays a really important role in ensuring the state maintains progress to clean our air. And under our former Governor John Hickenlooper, we failed. We failed miserably to protect our air quality. And the EPA was supposed to come in and effectively sanction Colorado. Basically say you failed, and so you got to do more than ever to protect the air quality. And a key action that EPA was required to take was reclassify our ozone non-attainment area from a moderate non-attainment area to a serious non-attainment area. And that sounds really wonky, and it is. It's Clean Air Act terminology. Basically, if you violate federal ozone standards, there's different classifications for your non-attainment area. There's marginal, moderate, and then serious. So serious is like the worst, and it means you really are messing up. And the Clean Air Act requires that if an area is bumped up to a serious non-attainment area, that the states have to really dig in more deeply than ever to reduce emissions and to clamp down on sources of ozone-forming pollution. EPA didn't make that finding last year, and so, as I mentioned earlier, we sued them for missing that deadline under the Clean Air Act, and that judge actually ruled in our favor in July. And finally, the EPA is moving forward on that. But in the meantime, the bump up hasn't happened, and that actually has some big implications. If the bump up were to happen, then it would immediately require the oil and gas industry in particular to meet much more stringent clean air standards, especially through their permitting processes. And we don't have that bump up right now. We're not a serious non-attainment area yet. So the EPA, because they've refused to follow the law and they've dragged their feet, is actually hindering clean air progress here in Colorado. And it's something we've actually called on the governor to weigh in on. The governor is committed to clean air. Governor Polis is committed to clean air. He's doing great work. He's saying great things. But the reality is the Trump administration could completely derail our progress if they don't follow through with their duties under the Clean Air Act. So it's good that Wild Earth Guardians stepped up and is holding the EPA accountable. We do wish that the state would do more to ensure the feds play their role and do their job as they're legally required. It would be a disaster if the state was doing all this work and then the Trump administration came in and said, no, we're not letting it happen. We're derailing that progress. And under Trump, the EPA has been very willing and very upfront about its support for polluters and especially the oil and gas industry. So we need to be very diligent that the state not only maintains its progress and develops new state rules, but also ensures the EPA doesn't interfere. So
that's great.
Yeah,
lots going on.
There is lots going on. So stay tuned in, stay plugged in. Like we said, follow us at Climate West on Twitter. So we have a Twitter handle, it's at Climate West. We have a Facebook page, it's Climate West. And follow us on our website, Wild Earth Guardians website. So it's wildearthguardians.org. And stay plugged in there. You'll get the latest updates. And then please, one big thing you can do is sign up for our Colorado for Clean Air mailing list. We give people updates and highlight opportunities to engage and to show up and help make a difference on a regular basis. Go to our website, it's co4cleanair.org, so co4cleanair.org. You can sign up for our email list. It's the best way to stay plugged in and to make a difference. There's so many ways that people can help support clean air and help us rein in the oil and gas industry and help make Colorado a healthier state to live in. And hopefully set an example that other states can follow as well, especially here in the American West. So please sign up for updates, follow us on social media, and then please email us anytime. My email is jnichols, jnichols, @wildearthguardians.org. And Becca's?
Mine is rfischer, Fischer, at wildearthguardians.org.
Great. So again, I'm Jeremy Nichols, Climate Energy Program Director.
Becca Fischer, Climate and Energy Program Attorney.
And this has been our inaugural Facebook Live event for Climate Energy Program. Just checking in with folks, providing updates. Thanks for those who did send some questions in. Hopefully next time we'll get even more. And I think the next Facebook Live event that we're going to do next Wednesday at 1. So we're doing these every week, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Next week, I think we're going to talk about our efforts to protect the Greater Chaco region from fracking. And Greater Chaco is an area in northwest New Mexico.
Got a great prop behind you.
Yes, the Chaco culture and Chaco Culture National Historical Park and Chaco Canyon are kind of the core, the heart of the Greater Chaco region. And we're working with tribal allies and many others to try to permanently protect the region from fracking. So stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
All right, take care. Bye.